Hey, I was going to say good morning, everyone, but maybe you're listening to this at 7 o'clock at night. This is Storytelling on the Plains, and we record in the morning, but you listen to it whenever you want to. And today, you all are going to be listening to part 9 billion of our series on theaters in the Panhandle. I'm torn on this because I really am enjoying learning all this stuff. But man, 8 parts is a lot. And I definitely bit off more than I can chew. And so I am looking forward to us being done. After today, we'll have 2 more parts, and then we can move on to something different. We already have something different lined up, but it's just, I don't like to do things half-assed. I could have very easily just said, there was a theater in Crawford too, and it ain't here anymore. But that's going to be in our next episode because I want to make sure. And while I was writing this one today, which we're going to be talking about the theaters that were in Minatare and Gering, I did not know there were theaters in Morrill, and I came across 2. So I added those into the episode for next week because I literally just found that out yesterday, and I already had this written.
So many theaters.
Yeah, so that's it. That's it. What I have now is it. I'm done, and if I find any more, I'm just going to make a sentence that says, hey, there was this theater there, because otherwise we're going to spend a year on all the theaters in the area. So today we're just going to stick with Minatare and Gering, and today I just keep saying today.
It's today.
And before we started recording, I already told Connor of all the things that have gone wrong this morning before he got here. So hopefully everything goes well after this. I don't see anything really going wrong, other than Irene can't talk and pronounce things, which,
it's okay.
I do know one person that, I don't know if she listens to the podcast anymore, but she was getting angry at me because sometimes I don't pronounce it correctly, but I'm reading, and then all of a sudden your brain just goes, yeah, we're not going to read anymore. And
she must hate me then.
No, she was just criticizing me.
I must be the worst.
Yeah.
For the listeners.
No. And it could be something like when I say storytelling on the plains, I might stumble over plains. It's a word I've read 1 billion times. It's the name of the podcast. And for whatever reason, my brain at that millisecond just decided we're not going to pronounce that word right. And it happens. I worried about it at first because she would bring it up frequently. She doesn't bring it up at all anymore, mainly because I told her to shut up. But I started listening to other podcasts, and it happens on other podcasts as well. Yeah. So we're human.
We do this live. We don't edit a lot of what we say.
No.
I mean, if you don't like it, listen to something else.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what to tell you.
And pretty much what we record is what you get. I used to sit and go through and spend probably 5 hours on each podcast and edit out whenever I said or so, and then make it flow so that you didn't notice that there was a little cut there. And if I flubbed a word and started again, I would go in and see if I could cut that little flub out. You know what? We're human. We do this live, and we both have other things we have to do in life, including jobs. And so pretty much what we record is what you get. And if I screw up, I screw up. The only time in the last year that I've cut anything out was something that I had said, and I forget what it was now, but I was wrong, and it happened to be in a place where we kind of talked about it, and then shifted back to what we were talking about, so it was very easy to cut it out.
Yeah, and I think I asked you to cut a few of my things out that were historically mistaken or...
Yeah, there've been
quite right. Yeah, I've had a couple where I've said something and then I looked it up. It's like, oh, shite.
Yep.
That wasn't right.
And then I get a text, hey, could you take that out? Yep, no problem. No problem.
That's not right.
So
I am human. I make mistakes.
Yeah,
As
we all
say,
do.
we're not historians.
Yeah.
You know,
And we just go with the best information we have. So,
which is a lot better than, I have to say, we're doing a lot better than what the world's going on really right now.
Yeah.
I think we're doing a pretty good job of at least putting in the effort.
yes. And like I said, there's a lady that used to be the president of OCTA. And you can go look up the history of OCTA and see who maybe I'm talking about. But I had gotten an email from her a while back, and I was terrified to open it because she knows her crap. And it was just this very nice email about, I'm really liking your podcast and I'm enjoying everything. And we had a conversation. She's like, everything I've heard has been right so far. And I'm like,
Oh, geez.
awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So I was pretty happy with that. And OCTA stands for the Oregon California Trails Association. See that? I'm not going to edit that out. And OCTA is huge across the nation.
Yes, very much so.
She's a very, very nice lady, and if I was wrong, she would have told me in a nice, polite way, and we would have fixed it. Mm-hmm. But I was very happy.
We do our best. I mean, we really do. We try not to do anything too inflammatory. I mean, we have our opinions of people. I think we have a right to have that, but other than that, we don't go overboard.
Yeah, and I had someone the other day who belongs to an organization in the state, and she wanted to know if we'd be willing to have her and her organization on. And I'm like, I don't know. They try to stay neutral, but they are still a political organization. And sorry, this is the first I'm bringing it up to you, but my brain is already going, it'd be nice because they kind of align with my thoughts. But we just want to do the history. We don't want to get into politics unless we have to. Like, I'm trying to find information on Reagan coming out here, and I have a little bit of information on RFK coming out here. I'm still trying to find more information, so that would technically be politics, but it's about them visiting here.
It was about them visiting, which is a lot different, I think.
Yeah.
Again, it's a story.
Yes.
We have our right to tell it, poke a little fun at it, tell our view of it, and then kind of move on.
Yeah.
Nowadays, politics is it's just a whirlpool right now, and I don't know if I want to get
and I'm happy
into it more than I already have.
Yes. And I wrote on my blog a few weeks ago, there were a lot of cuss words, so if you're not used to the F word,
Calm down, Irene.
Yeah.
You're such a sailor.
I know.
Or was it me?
And I took a lot of them out, but the post was basically, I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't want to be angry all the time. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy learning about the history of where I live and telling these stories.
You
get
a little. You guys all get a little flippant with your cuss words.
Yeah,
you kind of put it on like ketchup.
And so I'm shifting my blog to be more just my own personal stories. While they're always there, there would be something going on in the world that would tick me off, and I would end up writing a blog post about it.
Sure.
And I don't want to do that. I want to be, I will say that Will Wheaton influences me a little bit. And
why is it in the world that I've heard this guy's name like 8 times this week? Was this Will Wheaton syndrome?
Oh,
I've
God,
heard
I don't know.
From you and other people.
Oh, really?
Randomly.
Okay, so
starting to get a little paranoid here.
Okay, so I subscribe to his blog, and I have been subscribed since like 98 or 99, whenever it was he started it. He wrote a post a couple of days ago, and I really identified with it because I have PTSD, he has PTSD, and some of the things that he wrote in his most recent post is everything I've been thinking but haven't had a good way to put it out there without cussing. And so he did a good job with it. And it's the overwhelming feeling that I have enough stories in my head that I could write every day. But there are days I sit down and I look at the list of my stories and it becomes overwhelming and I shut down and I walk away. And I know that for me, is a trauma response. I think it is for him as well, but I'm not sure. And so I'm working on how to get past that so I can just sit down and write. But both of us think along the lines of, Mr. Rogers said, when things go bad, always look for the helpers. Mm-hmm. And the way he's trying to help is he has been reading, I believe the short stories are in the public domain, and so he started up a little podcast where he reads these short stories. Okay. And he said that's how he's trying to be a helper, is that you can read these fun little science fiction stories, or listen to them, that he's read, to pull yourself out of all the crap that's going on in the world everywhere. And for me, that's what I started my current blog as in 2013, to do the same thing. And I just want to do more. I'm just struggling with doing more. I get about 1 a week, sometimes 2 a week, but I would really prefer 3 a week. Mm-hmm. And He also wrote a couple of weeks ago about the helpers, and then today he was writing about the how it just feels overwhelming. And as a writer, I have all of these stories that I want to tell, and it does. You sit down and you go, oh, do I tell the one about this or this one or this one or this one? And then it starts becoming overwhelming because you can't choose, because they're all good stories, and I could write them all. I can write them all. And then you just get up and you walk away from your desk, and then nothing gets done. So he's written 2 stories or 2 blog posts in 2 weeks. So maybe that's why you're hearing from him a bit more. But he was talking as well about, how do you unplug a little bit to manage life. And for me, this podcast really helps with that, because we set a weekly schedule. Mm-hmm. So every Saturday morning after my husband goes to work, I come down here to my office and I sit down and write our next episode. And it really helped for me. I think it was, end of November, I sent that list out to you and said, hey, what do you think about doing this, 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 and this? And it got us through to March. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that has really helped, because I can just open that file. Oh, yeah, this is the next thing we need to do. Mm-hmm. So then that takes the decision out, that, one little decision out, and I can sit down and write something. And then if I feel okay, I'll write my own personal thing. But I usually do that on Sundays. If I'm not overwhelmed. But anyway, we're talking about movie theaters. So we're going to start in Minatare today. Not picking one over the other. Minatare just happened to be at the top of my file that I cut and pasted. So I just worked my way down. There's no favoritism to Minatare or hate toward Gering. It's just when I...
Well, so says you.
Yeah. When I was looking at the giant list that I had, and I was trying to divide them up into smaller files to do separate episodes, Gering and Minatare seemed to be roughly the same length, and I was like, oh, I can put both of them in one. And it just happened that I came across Minatare bits first and pasted those in. So please don't ever read anything into the order that I put something in. It literally ends up being something as stupid as that. Why did you do that story first? Well, because that's the one I came across first, and it was at the top of my notes.
Gering sucks. There, I said it.
Yeah, and you're from Scottsbluff. That's not going to...
I'm a Bearcat all the way. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's one thing I never understood, is that rivalry. But
it was a fun rivalry,
yeah.
I must say, as a kid.
Yeah.
Between the burning of letters in the football fields to letting blue mice into our... They put blue mice into our school, but we did something horrible to them.
Like live mice?
Yeah. We did something horrible to them in return. We had a great rivalry. It was good times.
Yeah.
It was back when it was all innocent, and now any of that now can put you into jail.
Oh, yeah.
But, back then it really was more innocent, graffitiing cars.
Yeah.
Not permanently, We weren't ever those kind of kids, but
just the fun rivalries.
The fun rivalry, you can't do any of that no more.
I remember reading somewhere like 98, 99 for April Fool's Day, after some kids had seen Dope Dead Poets Society, they literally took a car from Auto Shop and reassembled it in a hallway somewhere in the school. And everybody had a good laugh about it, and the principal was like, you need to take that down. And they're like, yeah. So at the end of the day, they disassembled it and put it back down in the auto shop. But it was just a fun April Fool's prank. They went to the school in the middle of the night and did this, and everybody comes to school and work the next morning, and there it is. Today, you're gonna have the cops called on you, which is...
Well, wasn't there a sitcom? Was it that 70s show, or maybe Boy Meets World or something? That they do that. They try to put the car, they disassemble the car, they get it on the roof, but then they don't know how to put it back together.
That would be me. I could take it apart.
I think it was something like that. Like they didn't know what they were doing. So
that's hilarious. Yeah, and in early internet days, and I've been online since '93, I used to see pictures from silly little pranks of schools across the country that just did fun little pranks, and they cleaned it up at the end of the day, and it was all good-natured fun. Mm-hmm. And you can't really do that anymore, which is sad. But you can still see movies, and we're going to talk about old movie theaters that aren't there anymore. Yes,
Don't get sidetracked.
See, we're terrible about this. So Gering and Minatare do not have any movie theaters at all today. If they want to go to the movies, they have to come to Scottsbluff or drive up to Mitchell, or go to Kimball or Sydney. They do not have any. And just for reference, for people that don't know, I forgot to get the population numbers, but Minatare is very small. Gering gets angry when you tell them they're a bedroom community to Scottsbluff, but that is the best description of the town.
Bedroom community.
Yeah, they get really angry about that, especially some of the older folks. But when you go pre-internet, 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, there was room for it. I'm hearing an echo. It might just be me and my ears right now.
I don't hear.
You're not hearing anything? Okay, maybe it's just me. You go back 100 years, and that was the entertainment in town, and every town tried to have a theater. So we're going to start in Minatare with the Leafy Theater, which was on Main Street. And if you've ever been to Minatare, the turn off of the highway into Minatare, I believe, is Main Street. So it's not too hard to find Main Street. It's not very long. You can see the railroad tracks from the highway, and it's a very small town. I'm not even sure if there's 1,000 people in Minatare now.
Oh no.
And you're counting the farms out in the country too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 700
at
most.
Yeah. So for them to have the theaters that they did is pretty amazing. So according to the book Minatare Memories, a historical account of the Tabor Minatare community of western Nebraska, compiled by the Minatare Historical Committee, Minatare had at least 4 theaters, but they weren't all active at the same time. The first 2 were the Leafy Theater and the Evans Theater. And I'm going to get into it in a minute, but I think part of the confusion and why the book only says 4 is because you out here, at least in western Nebraska, you come across it a lot. Irene opens a theater, so it's called the Irene Theater. And then I sell up to Connor, and Connor does some refurbishment and reopens it as the Connor Theater. It's still the same theater, but we're not counting
renaming.
Yeah, so I will note the renamings, but I believe it was just 4 theaters that were out here. I believe the ladies that did the Minatare Memories. And I really wish I had started this podcast a long time ago, because those ladies were awesome to talk to, and I had gotten wind that they were working on the book, and they were just meeting down at Legacy to have some space to do it. And most of the research was down there. Mm-hmm. Some of it was in Minatare at the library, and they were all older ladies, and I know 2 of the 5 have passed on, but they have fantastic stories, and I could have just sat there for hours and hours. And then I'm limited to 500 to 800 words, and I just sat and talked to them for 4 hours. Anyway, they put this book together, and I think it's really neat that they did that. For the book, Ida Harshman Shadle told Juanita Baker, and Juanita was one of the ladies who helped put the book together, that during the days of silent movies, she played the piano for the film as it was being shown. So that's a cool bit of history that was still alive when they put this book together about, it's coming up on a decade. I think it was 2016 when they put it together, or 17. And that's what the book is full of, all this neat little history from Minatare. According to the Minatare Free Press, in 1930, E.O. Harshman leased his Grand Theater to Floyd Shadle, and on January 8th, 1930, you could see the movie Smilin' Irish Eyes with Colleen Moore, and on January 27th, 1957, Postmark for Danger was shown at the Aladdin Theater. So the Aladdin is another theater that was there as well. But you're going to hear the same name. So Ida Harshman Shadle. Oh, look, her dad leased the theater from a dude with her now last name. So they're all related. Hey, Ida can play the piano. Let's have her go play. That's how it works in small towns. So that gets you the Leafy, the Evans, and the Grand, and the Aladdin in town. So they were all, from what I understand, all four of them are the four we're going to be talking about. There isn't a lot of remaining history of them just because of the time period, and people just didn't really think about that. So if you're not thinking about preserving history, the buildings go by the wayside, and then you need somebody who's alive to remember that the building was there. Although the Leafy was a contemporary of Gauvain's Opera House, it didn't last as long, so I thought I would do the Leafy first before I get to the Opera House. There isn't much about the Leafy in the book Minatare Memories, but its owner, Ernest Leaf Green, was some kind of builder. I saw a few times throughout the book, he built this and he built that, so it makes sense that he built the theater and named it after himself. Most of my information here came from Cinema Treasures, because the only other reference I had was the Minatare Memories book, and there just wasn't really anything in there. Leafy partnered with C.D. Humans to build the theater, and it was open from December 1914 to February 1920. Just over 5 years doesn't seem long, but if you've been listening to our other episodes on the theaters, they either have a short life or lasted a long time with a bunch of name changes. Mm-hmm. This echoing is really bugging me.
I guess I don't hear it.
I only hear it when we talk.
I guess I'm not hearing it.
You don't hear it?
I don't hear it.
Okay.
Not personally,
I'm gonna try and ignore it, and then when I
hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah, when I do the editing, hopefully it's not in there, because I don't know how to take it out.
Yeah, I really don't hear it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's your headpiece or not.
It could also be my overly sensitive ears, because I'm not quite like Radar O'Reilly from MASH, but I got a little bit of that going on. So I might just be hearing things that the general population doesn't hear. According to Cinema Treasures, the Leafy Theater mainly played films, but did have sporadic live events. An item in the December 29, 1917 Motography indicated the film showed at the Leafy was Hell Morgan's Girl. And I don't know if Hell Morgan was the guy, or I don't have time to go watch all these movies.
Although you actually did pick out some good ones in our last few episodes.
Yeah.
They're definitely ones that are worth, if you guys do have the time. A lot of them are like black and white, old school ones, but I personally like those ones, and they are fun to see if you have time to see them.
Yeah, and sometimes black and white is better than color.
Oh, I really agree. I have some favorites that I don't ever want to see in color.
Yeah. Oh, we could colorize those. Yeah, no.
Case in point, Young Frankenstein. Never want to see it in color.
Nope.
That movie was is so iconic in black and white. I don't think I ever want to see it in color.
No, that movie is perfect. Leave it alone. Don't even remake it. After closing in 1920, the space was reconfigured for an electronics fixture store. See? Electronics, stumbled over that word. I'm just going to point that out today. Here you go, guys. Here's where I screwed up again. I'm not going to fix it.
It's okay, Irene. It's okay.
I know. It's one of those things I got to get past where I just need to work through it and then just ignore it from now on. Movie screenings moved to the Opera House turned Grand Theater. That was followed by the Aladdin Theater, giving the town roughly 43 years of cinema. Not bad for a town that at its peak had about 1,000 residents. And we're far from peak today. For Gauvant's Opera House, which eventually became the Grand Theater, I'll be quoting from Juanita Baker's story in Minatare Memories. So when I say it might be her. So I'm going to do a little profile on Auguste Gauvant later, but he was born in Iowa and his mother was French. I just want to stick to the theaters right now, and our episodes are long enough that Gauvant could probably be his own place. He had a blacksmith shop on the west side of Main Street between Railway and 4th Streets. There was a fire on April 1st, 1913, which destroyed his shop, as well as every other shop on that block. For whatever reason, Gauvant decided to replace his blacksmith shop with an opera house. I'm sure the people were happy for that, because...
Except for the people that need the horseshoes.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he did his horseshoe stuff out back. I don't know. According to the Cinema Treasures website, Gauvant's Opera House opened on December 21st, 1914 with live entertainment. Its drop curtain was painted by Albert Wright Atkinson, who played professional baseball in the 1880s in the Union Association and the American Association. The January 1st, 1915 edition of the Minatare Free Press reported the two-story brick opera house cost $8,000 to build. In 2026 dollars, that is $256,730.30. So, $250, it's $250,000. But to build a little opera house, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but that's just to build a thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's just to build it.
Now you got to operate it.
Yeah, maintain it. I wanted to also mention that this sentence that I found on Cinema Treasures, just because I thought it was cool. Minatare did once suffer without a movie theater for several months after the Strand Theater got destroyed by a fire in September 1924. I haven't been able to find any other information on the Strand Theater or even where it was located, but I love that the person that typed it up wrote that it got destroyed by fire. In England, I hear this a lot because of my British husband. He would ask, "Oh, it went on fire." That's usually the joke that British people use. The building went on fire. So some arsonist set it on fire. But, they're like, oh, it just went on fire. Don't know how it happened. So it just made me laugh when this person wrote, it got destroyed by a fire. Technically correct grammar, but awkward.
The best kind of correct.
Yeah. My 12th grade English teacher, Miss Prather, would make me rewrite that sentence. And she would say, Irene, it's technically correct, it's grammatically correct, but it's awkward, go back and rewrite it. But you know what? These are folks that are just movie lovers and doing research. So,
my English teacher would have been impressed I could spell fire right. Good job, Connor. You learned how to spell fire today.
And see, if you were in New York, some fingers would be waved at.
You mean it's not spelled with a Y? F-Y-R-E. Fire.
Along the way, the Opera House changed owners, and with that came a name change. The Gauvant became the Minatare Opera House, and then the Evans Opera House. I couldn't find any information on the dates of the name changes. When the Leafy went out of business, the Opera House began showing movies more often. So from what I understand, the Opera House could show movies, they just didn't do it a lot. But then when the Leafy closed, they're like, oh, we'll just show more. So the Opera House then went through a remodel and was named New Theater on May 23rd, 1925, opening with John Bowers in When a Man's a Man. And here's a fun fact. It was named New Theater, as in, here's a new theater, because it hadn't been named by the time it was opened. So they go through the process of remodeling, and then during that whole time, nobody thought of a new name. So that's the new theater.
We're very focused out here. Very, very focused on our jobs. We can name it later. Let's just get it done.
Likely at the end of a 10-year lease, the Opera House was taken over by the owner of the Harshman Building, E.O. Harshman, who changed its name to the Grand Theater on June 18, 1925. Ernest Holcomb took on the thereon, I'm quoting folks, so I apologize for the terrible stuff. Ernest Holcomb took on the thereon December 18, 1930, promising, though not delivering, sound films. So when Ernest Holcomb took over the theater, it's 1930, and he's like, yeah, we're going to get sound in our films, and it didn't happen. The name Grand Theater was chosen after a theater naming contest was held, and that was the winning choice, with 31 people picking the name Grand. According to Cinema Treasures, Grand was presented by Phil Fulton, and that's a lot. Say Phil Fulton many, many times, and you'll know why I just stumbled. But I'm unsure if presented here means he was the guy who picked Grand, and then 30 other people said, yeah, that's cool, or if he presented the winning name. It doesn't say. And it
right. Who knows?
Who knows?
Whenever they do that kind of thing, do you really know? It's like, oh, the community picks a name, or so they think.
Yeah.
The mayor had it picked out the entire time, but we're just going to have a name draw. And the winner, and then how are you going to know?
Yeah.
Is someone going to count for a vote?
Yeah.
Voter fraud for that. For what we're going to name something.
According to Minatare Memories, the Opera House was used for entertainment and business offices, and although it is no longer used to host operas, the building is still standing, and it is used today as the Minatare Community Room. Until a few years ago, it was used as the Head Start preschool. So if you want to go to Minatare, you can still find the building in town. I think it's closed now. Head Start closed a few years ago.
Yes, I believe it did.
And
there's not a lot left up in Minatare.
Yeah. Minatare is another one of those possible bedroom communities.
I would only give it that because it has a school. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And if it didn't have a school, I wouldn't even give it that credit.
Yeah. And Lake Minatare School was part of Scottsbluff Schools, and they just announced that that's closing at the end of the year. Yeah. So Minatare just has the junior high and high school, and that always, I don't know. It's weird to me that Lake Minatare School feeds into Scottsbluff Public Schools and not Minatare Public Schools. I think they might have an elementary, but it's all like the same build. I don't know.
Well, and it didn't always. A lot of things changed.
Yeah.
A lot of things changed with the school districts over time, so that has a big thing to do with it.
And there used to be a ton of country schools, and I think Lake Minatare is the last one in Scottsbluff County to close. Now there is one that's associated with, is it Morrill or Mitchell? It's north of Morrill, I think. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it, and I did a story on them. But they're a 2-room schoolhouse, and they still get quite a few elementary kids. I think it's a K-5 elementary now.
It's not the Pink School.
No, it's not the Pink School.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Chalk Butte.
Oh, Chalk Butte. Okay.
Yeah, and I just can't ever remember. Is it Morrill or Mitchell they're associated with? But they're like the last country schools that are in western Nebraska. I don't even think if you go to Alliance or down to Sydney or anything, I don't even think there's any country schools left. I think those two might be the last two.
Yeah, it's a sad thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
I enjoyed I went out there for the whole school day. Ate lunch with the kids and everything. It was neat.
And that was my time every day.
Yeah. Because you went to Lake Minatare, didn't you?
I went to Lake Alice.
Lake Alice, yeah, and Lake Alice
which was
is closed.
Almost identical to Lake Minatare as far as like what they did.
If I remember correctly, I think Lake Alice closed right around the time that I moved here.
Yep, it would have closed. I think it closed 2 years after I left it.
Okay.
I think my sophomore year.
Okay.
Or junior year in high school, it closed. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
It's a shame. If I was rich, I would buy those buildings because they're very cool buildings. So in 1931, movies appeared to have ceased at the Grand, but the town didn't have to worry about not having a theater. George W. Luce opened the Aladdin Theater in the Harshman Building on August 27, 1931. And the reason, bless you, the reason everything is associated with people's names and their name in the buildings after them is you need to remember at its peak, Minatare had 1,000 people. So everything gets related to everything else by somebody's name. So maybe the Harshmans didn't plan on calling it the Harshman Building, but everybody knew Harshman built it, so it becomes the Harshman Building. And it's just because it's a small town, and if you have fewer than 1,000 people, you know everybody. A good example is when Juanita's husband passed away. I know Juanita and her daughter. I interviewed her daughter for Veterans Day. And I wanted to send a sympathy card, and I didn't have their address. I knew how to get to their house, so I just popped over to the post office in Minatare, and the rural carrier, because there's only one, she was like, oh, I know where that is, I'll take it. So she took it, and then I got a very nice letter from her daughter, Val. It was pretty cool. But that's how things are here. You know, I don't know what the address is, but...
Oh, yeah, most of the time, if you know the name and find a postal carrier within the relative neighborhood, they'll find it. And just for reference, folks, I don't hear that noise anymore. I forgot to turn the heat down. I'm wondering if that's what I was hearing. So if you heard it, folks, I'm sorry. That's my bad. I forgot to turn the heat down. Heat ghosts.
Yeah. It's nice in the wintertime. I can turn the heat down and it's still relatively warm here. But during the summer, when we record, I turn the AC off when we come down here to record. And there are days where I'm like, oh my God, it's so hot. I want the AC on. Got to get through this podcast. But it's because I don't want the podcast or the mics to pick up the heat. Yeah. And you're almost underneath the vent. And there's a vent behind me. So I think that's what I was hearing because I don't hear it anymore. It was either that or my husband had stuff in the dryer, but whatever. If you hear it, I'm sorry, guys. I forgot that we need to be quiet and whatever. Deal with it. So for reference, the Grand was located at 313 Main Street, and the Aladdin was listed as Main and Third. The Aladdin was Luce's third theater, and it opened on August 27, 1931, with Laura LaPlante in Lonely Wolves. I did try and go look on Google Maps and was going to describe stuff, but again, I had a bad day, and it became overwhelming, and I just thought, you know what, here's the addresses. Y'all can go look at Google Maps and try and get a sense of where it was, because some of it is empty lots now. The theater closed 6 months later in February 1932. It reopened a little over a year later on July 29, 1933, after Gordon H. Carey took it over. He equipped it with a Weber Synchrofilm sound system for better audio fidelity and a Blizzard fan to better ventilate the venue. Its reopening film was Bob Steele in The Fighting Champ. In 1940, it got a major streamlined modern makeover. So I just want to touch on, I pronounce it Weber. It's Weber. And I have heard people say Weber, but I was taught in English Weber needs two B's because you're saying Web-ber. So without the second B, the first E becomes a long E, Weber. Whatever. It's Weber. Don't send me emails because I don't want to be corrected. It's just the way I was taught, and I have visions of Miss Nancy Prather in my senior high school English class beating me for not pronouncing things correctly. So I don't want to get hit with an imaginary ruler from Nancy Prather, who may not even be alive anymore. She'd be in her late 90s by now if she was still alive. Very, very good grammatarian. She was probably the best English teacher I ever had, and I hated her, but she made me a better writer. So she did her job, and she did it well. So all goes well, and the theater is chugging along until March 10th, 1955, so about 15 years later. And that's when it was equipped with a widescreen projection to play CinemaScope titles, beginning with Knights of the Round Table. And CinemaScope was a new technique in filming. It was the latest thing, and it was super expensive, but it made films look cooler, but you needed a widescreen projector to get the whole picture and not have it be wrapping around the sides of the theater. Vern Llewellyn wrote a bit about his life for Minatare Memories, the book, and I want to read this bit that he wrote about the Aladdin. Vern's favorite job was working as an usher in the concession stand for Gordon Carey at the Aladdin Theater. He got to watch all of the movies. Admission was 5 cents for children and 10 cents for adults. Above the exit sign in the theater, there was always a picture of Shirley Temple on display. Now, I don't know why Vern wrote in the third person, and he didn't list the date where he worked there. It's just a neat little memory of a dude that worked there. My guess is he was probably also a little bit older, because I know writing about yourself in the third person was more common, and that's probably how he learned to write about it. And if you think back, I don't know if you would remember Bob Dole. He ran for president in 96. Bob Dole talked about himself in the third person, and Bob Dole is of that age where that's probably what he was taught in school, and he just never got out of that habit.
Yeah, they kind of made fun of him in my generation for that. Yeah,
he got made fun of mercilessly for that. SNL had endless skits about it. Yeah. That's just a little quirk of that small time period in American history where that's how you were taught to do things. So my best guess is that Vern here was probably of the same age as Bob Dole, and that's what he was taught. So they asked him to write a little bit of his memories of life living in Minatare, and he did, and he just wrote about himself in the third person, because it even said by Vern. It's okay. That's another little neat piece of history that most people don't know about. The Aladdin was closed on April 1st, 1956, though according to information in the May 26, 1956 Motion Picture Herald, the theater had been closed since the beginning of the year. Manuel Alvarez reopened the Aladdin on August 3rd, 1956. Its showing that night was Kiss of Fire, starring Jack Palance, and it was a sold-out venue. So while that sounds like a good thing, those numbers didn't hold out. Television was starting to take over. Minatare saw its population decrease to about 900 people, so they're already going down from their peak population, and there were about 20% fewer people than in its heyday. And the town just wasn't able to support a theater anymore. So the last movie was Oklahoma, with Shirley Jones and Gordon McRae on December 30th, 1957. It also had a newsreel and a cartoon that day. Today, if you live in Minatare and you want to go to the theater, you're going to drive 20 minutes to Scottsbluff to do so. Or maybe you have Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or Apple or whatever, all these other streaming services. So that's about it for Minatare. And yes, I believe the ladies that put together the book Minatare Memories, they were right. There were at least 4 theaters. There were more, but a lot of them were in the same building. They just got taken over by somebody else and the name changed. And that gets confusing. And when these ladies put this book together, we still had access to the internet and had books and stuff, but they didn't have access to some of the things that I was able to get access to, because now there's this website, Cinema Treasures, and they have access to newspapers.com and old, what was that, Motorography? It used to be an old magazine about movies. And they have access to all those archives, so they can go and look and find that stuff. And these ladies just didn't have access to it. So they're like, our best guess is there were 4. Yeah, there were 4, and some of them changed their names. So if you ever, I know there's a copy of the book in the Minatare Library. I don't know if the Scotts Bluff Library has it. I have a copy. It's a neat little book to go through. So on to Gering. The town of Gering has a similar history with theaters, though they never supported as many theaters as Minatare did. I just get a sense, like when I moved here, I hear people make fun of Minatare all the time. Oh, only poor people live there. And they trash talk it a lot, and it's mean trash talk. It's not like, oh, Connor, I'll kick your butt next week. I can. It's not friendly banter trash talk. It's mean trash talk. And the more I learn about Minatare, the more I find all these really cool things about this town that just happen to be 20 minutes by car from Scotts Bluff. And the really rich folks settled in Scotts Bluff. So, of course, they have more money to invest in the town and build it up. And Minatare, you only had a few, but they keep trying and they don't give up. I've lived here since 2007, so I'm in year 19 now. I think it's 2026. When I get to August, I'll start year 20 here. And that steakhouse restaurant, how many times have they reopened that? They're always trying, and they have good food. It's hard to support when there aren't a lot of people there. Even the Pink Palace, which we haven't done yet, down in Melbeta. Yep. I would love to do a story on that.
The owner just lost his wife.
Oh.
So that we don't know the future of that place
either. Yeah. And they do prime rib just on Friday and Saturdays, and I'm pretty sure Friday and Saturdays support the rest of the week there.
Definitely.
It's just, they're small town places, but they don't give up. And I would think that if the owner didn't want to do it, there might be some other people that might help keep it going. But we'll see. That's something else to keep an eye on. And that's one thing I like about Minatare is they keep trying. Well, what else can we do? What else can we do? What else can we do? And so, I didn't like it when people trash talked Minatare before, but now when they do it, I tend to speak up and be like, well, why don't you like it? Tell me why you don't like it. Tell me about your blatant jerkishness.
Well, for my part, it's the cats and all the cow shit, but
yeah,
get used to it.
Yeah.
If you really want to know.
Oh, there you go. I mean, at least you have a legit reason why you don't like it.
Yeah, there's a mountain of cow shit out there.
The people that tell me they hate it, it tends to be the people that are living there. And that makes me angry because we're all just humans, folks. Anyway, if you go to 1338 10th Street in Gering, you'll see Nazware there today. And I'm not sure if Nazware is still open. I have not been down to Gering in a while.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just not sure. But that is where the Grove Theater was. And it first opened on September 18th, 1916 as the Theater Royale. Made me think of Pulp Fiction.
Everything's grand and royale here.
Your Royale with cheese. But yeah, the Theater Royale. So Lillis Grasmick, who was the former curator for the North Platte Valley Museum in Gering, had told me about a decade ago that there were some folks known as the Hugo Players who came to Gering to do plays. They would do 3 shows, a drama, a comedy, and a mystery in a week. She only remembered them as Mr. and Mrs. Hugo, but she said they did 3-act plays. So you're doing 9 acts in a week and different genres. That's a lot of work. Lillis passed on in 2019, so I wasn't able to try and get in touch with her. I don't have a Ouija board to see if I could get more information. But she had also told me about a decade ago that candy wasn't often sold, but that when it was, if the person was lucky, they'd find a slip of paper on the box and would win items such as a lamp, a doll, an ashtray, or a teddy bear. And if you remember, or you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to some of our earlier episodes on the theaters in the area where during World War I, they would have giveaways and stuff. And the Nile, they would do what do you call it when everybody donates some cash and somebody wins some of it?
Oh, lottery.
Kind of like a lottery. Raffle. There you go. So they were doing a similar thing down in Gering, but they were just coming up with things. What would this person like? And again, you're in that World War I time, so it makes sense why they were doing it as well as all the other theaters in town. I forget now where the Hugo Players performed, but it's likely that it was at the Theater Royale, given the time, the venues, what they did. That's my best guess, is that's where they were at. And again, Lillis is the only person I know that gave me that information, and she passed on 7 years ago, so I can't ask her for more clarification. So this is where things get a little convoluted because, again, the same people owned all the same theaters in the area, and hopefully I didn't screw any of this up. In 1916, P.G. Armbus purchased another theater called the Pastime, but didn't like it for whatever reason, so he wanted to open up something else. I guess he wanted to call it the Queen, but there was already a Queen Theater in the area, so when he opened it, he named it the Theater Royale. I'm also unsure where the Pastime Theater was. I'm not entirely sure it was in Gering. Again, they own stuff from the Front Range all the way up, Front Range in Colorado, all the way up to here, and I found a couple of places with this reference, and it just said the name of the theater. I couldn't find anything else about it. And try looking up the word Pastime Theater. Its first show at the Theater Royale was a live play, In the Shadow of the Cross. When the play's run was over, it became a movie theater and switched its name to the Royal Theater. Then Earl Kipp, who owned the Gaiety Theater, takes over the Pastime. Next, Professor Charles L. Henning takes over as the Royals organist in 1919. And I found this information on Cinema Treasure, so I'm not 100% sure if any of these theaters were in Gering or not, or if they were owned somewhere else in western Nebraska or the Front Range. I have had people tell me many times that there were many theaters down in Gering, but they couldn't remember their names. So sure. They could have been here. I can't find any information on it. And I'm probably just looking in the wrong places.
I had my own little moment with that in Gering the other day, but not with movie theaters. It was movie rental places, because I went to the old Fresh Foods. And there used to be a movie rental place right next to it.
Oh, that's right. Yep. When I first moved here, it was still there. Yeah.
And when it was originally a Safeway, when you go into Safeway, there was, but it's now that popcorn place that used to rent movies too. That was way back in the day. So yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because you just don't remember. No. Time changes, things change.
And if it's something you didn't frequent, you tend to not remember it.
Yeah, you don't have like a specific memory of going there.
Yep. Yep. Like the old Albertsons building, it was that other crappy store after Albertsons moved out. It's just a few blocks from my house here, over by Culver's. When we moved here, there was a bank there. And that's why when we moved here, we picked Valley Bank as a bank, because they had a branch inside the grocery store, and it was 3 blocks from the house we moved in when we first moved here. And they were open on Sundays. So
Albertsons was a great store.
I'm really sad they're not here. Anyway, the folks at Cinema Treasures also found this promotion in the September 15th, 1917 issue of Motography. The management of the Royal Theater and the merchants of Gering, Nebraska are experimenting with a free ticket plan which will continue in effect until October 27th. Under the operation of this scheme, purchasers of goods are receiving tickets with what they buy, entitling them to 1 admission on each ticket to the Monday night and Saturday matinee shows of the Royal Theater. As tickets require no extra outlay of cash, the bills being footed by the businessmen engaged in the plan. It is expected to prove a satisfactory trade inducement. And it's not unlike, when the football players or volleyball players come and they have a little card. Do you want to buy our card for $20? And then you get these discounts to different places in town. This was essentially the same thing, but just for the theater. And if you bought the little tickets, you didn't have to pay anything else for a movie, and I'm sure it was heavily discounted as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
16 years later, on April 17th, 1932, it was renamed again to the Grove Theater when Bill Beebe, and Clara Grove took over. So his name was Burr Grove, and his middle initial started with a B, so they just called him Beebe. The film that night was Millionaire, starring George Arliss. 3 months later, on July 16th, this theater was gutted by a fire. And I'm going to read from the Sunday, July 17th, 1932 Star Herald's front page about the fire. So the headline is, Grove Theater badly gutted by fire, lose 10,000 feet of films.
See, badly gutted.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Not destroyed.
Yeah.
Badly gutted.
Yeah. Badly gutted says we can fix this. Destroyed, you're crying. Pictures and sound projection equipment valued at approximately $5,500 was damaged, 10,000 feet of film was burned, and the interior of the Grove Theater at Gering damaged by a fire of undetermined origin, which broke out about 4:30 yesterday afternoon. Sorry, guys, I forgot to look up the $5,500. It's a lot of money. It's still all your film burned. The blaze started in the front end of the building in an unoccupied room just above the outside lobby, it was reported. It was brought under control within a short time by the Gering Fire Department. While the extent of the damage was not determined, it was feared that the sound and picture equipment would have to be replaced because of the excessive heat it had undergone. The projection room adjoins the space where the fire was reported to have started. A door left open in the projection room was believed to have resulted in the firing of 10,000 feet of film used in the show yesterday afternoon. And that's a unique way to use the word firing. Firing. The wall and ceiling fixtures and the seats were damaged by water. No one was injured, as the matinee had been over for about a half an hour when the blaze was discovered. It is reported that the loss was covered by insurance. So my guess is the projectionist left the door open, and I don't know if that was policy or not policy, but because the blaze started in the room next to the projection room, it probably was only able to get in the room because the door was open.
Yep.
So every room that I've been in, the door is always closed.
And like you said, they have those like metal, specially designed doors.
Yep. And they're designed to keep fire in the room as well as not allow fire out.
Yep.
And it was probably just a stupid mistake, and it's probably something everybody did all the time. Movie's over, open the door, don't think about closing it, and just crap happens. So there isn't a lot of other information from then to 1950, so 32 to 50, 18 years, when the theater was owned by Gibraltar Enterprises Incorporated. We've referenced them several times as well in our episodes. I'm not sure when Gibraltar purchased it, but the Grove eventually only showed movies on Saturday and Sunday and was closed on December 19, 1957 due to the continued complete absence of adult attendance. I love language. I love it.
With all these stupid kids.
It reopened on October 13th, 1962, showing The Fisherman. Again, nobody in this area gives up. It didn't work, but people still want to know about it. We're going to try again. We're going to try again. Same thing with the Balloon Fest. Yep. You know, it was not here for 20-some years. And the entire 20-year period, when's it going to come back? When's it going to come back? When's it going to come back? Now, not only is it back, it's got the national championships. And I believe they have them again this year as well.
Actually, this coming year is the start of them. Last year wasn't the championships yet.
Okay.
This coming year is the start.
The start of it. Okay.
I think we have them after that.
And,
for the next
and you're
3
friends
years.
with Colleen. You should tell her you do a podcast with me and have her come sit in that chair right there. And
I have told her. She knows. She's so busy.
I know.
Good luck getting a hold of her.
Oh my gosh! Even when I wrote stories for her, it's gonna happen in like 9 weeks. I better start calling her now. And then usually about a week and a half before I'm like, all right, Colleen, I got to get the story in the paper this week. And she would make some time for me. And she gave me a very nice compliment one time, and I'm really trying not to brag because I have imposter syndrome big time with my writing. But the last story that I had done with her, she told me that she enjoyed and preferred when I would do Balloon Fest stories because I quoted her accurately and I didn't get things wrong in my story. And to me, I'm like, thank you, because I'm uncomfortable with compliments. and also I was thinking, well, that's my job. But I remember little things like that because I have massive imposter syndrome. And some days when it gets really bad, I'll think of something like, oh no, Barb told me, you're doing a good job on the podcast. And Colleen told me you did a good job on the stories about the Balloon Fest. And so I remember those little things to try and push those thoughts of imposter syndrome out of my head. And I hate it. I wish I was super confident, and I'm not. Whatever. At the time, the theater was being managed by Jim Langford for the Commonwealth Circuit, and we've mentioned the Commonwealth Circuit a few times as well. It eventually became a shoe store and then a clothing store after closing again. And it never did reopen. And our last theater for today is the Valley Theater at 1531 10th Street in Gering. And that is where the Gering Public Schools has their administrative building today, and it's kind of attached to the cop shop, which is attached to the library. That's where it was.
Okay.
And that all got raised. So don't go looking at that building, because like I did when I learned that, instead of continuing to read, I went to Google Maps to look and try and see if I could see a movie theater. And I'm like, I can't. And so I went back and read some more, and there's a reason why. I'm a dummy. Valley Theater was not its original name. On November 21st, 1923, the Muse Theater officially opened, showing The 90 and The 9 with Colleen Moore. I guess Colleen Moore was pretty popular as an actress. This was the first time I ever heard of her. It was a 375-seat theater run by L.J. Cross and Son, and the son was Roy. Apparently, Roy would constantly tell the theater goers they were reading the title cards too loud during screenings, and I cracked up laughing. Can you imagine you're watching a movie and people are reading the title cards to the movie and they're loud, and Roy gets mad and he comes in and starts yelling at people? I'm like, y'all should be in some of the theaters I've been in where people scream at the actors on the screen. Roy would not enjoy those movies.
Might be scary Scary Movie, the first one.
Yeah.
Yells in the theater, it's like, out of my face. Don't go in there.
And, I only saw Scary Movie because I just thought it was perfect. I didn't want to go see anything, part 2, part 3, part 9, whatever they're up to.
They got a little ridiculous after a while.
But I loved part 1. I need to go back and watch it. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
I actually watched it not too long ago, and I forgot how funny it was. It's like, jeez.
Yeah, I remember laughing my butt off at it. And my thought right there at the very beginning when Drew Barrymore gets killed, my whole thought is, why are you running upstairs?
Oh yeah, and the scenes where it's like a gun, a banana, and a knife, and she chooses the banana.
Yeah.
Like, what?
This'll work.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I would love to pull Roy out of time and bring him forward 100 years and show him that movie on opening day and just watch him stress and freak out, because I saw that in a theater and everybody was animated. Oh, maybe he'd be too interested in the fact that no one had to read title cards anymore. In 1929, Ernest Holcomb took over the theater and decided not to convert to sound. Don't know why. I couldn't find any reason why. He mixed in a lot of live plays until 1931, when George W. Luce took over. George changed the front to a new deco design, and 1931, that's that Art Deco time when everybody's doing that. And he also installed equipment for sound. He renamed it the Riviera Theater on July 5th, 1931. Oh, he changed it on my birthday. I wasn't born in 1931, though. I'm not that old, guys. On that opening, Once a Sinner, starring Dorothy McHale, was shown. Beebe and Clara Grove took over the Riviera in May 1933 after the building was foreclosed on for lack of rent. I couldn't find any information on whether George just didn't pay the rent or if he didn't earn enough to pay the rent. My guess is he still had a bank loan and the bank was like, dude, you're not paying the rent. Or maybe he was, we do have, and I'm not going to name the person, but there's a person in this town that owns a bar that has been, I have been here since 2007. That person worked at a bar and then opened his own bar, and that place has moved around so many times it's not even funny. And what no one ever reports is it's because he doesn't pay his rent. He'll sign like a 2-year lease, and then after a year, they start the proceedings to kick him out because he hasn't paid his rent. And he's just a shady character all around. But I don't want to trash talk people.
The bar's called Squatters. In case you guys didn't know.
Yeah. I'll tell Connor later the whole story. When that person,
I'm pretty sure I know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know who it is too. And that's sad because everybody knows who it is, but people keep giving this person a chance to try again. A chance.
We need a place to drink. Leave us alone.
It's called your house.
He has cheap drinks. Damn it.
After Beebe died, Clara stayed on as manager, but W.H. Ostenberg took over both the Riviera and the Grove on October 16, 1937, and the Riviera was closed in 1942. After World War II, Midwest Amusement Company and W.H. Ostenberg III reopened the theater with a new name, Valley Theater, on December 25, 1948. He redid the front of the theater and also reduced the number of seats in the theater. I almost, I'm not going to do it, but I almost want to know what the books were like for Midwest Amusement Company, because they took over a lot of theaters in this area. So, remember a few episodes back about how folks have told me there used to be a Spanish theater in town, Spanish theater in town, and I couldn't find anything specific? Yeah, here's a little bit of information I discovered from the Cinema Treasures website, and I think this might be what people are talking about, and they just are misremembering, thinking it was its own theater. So Laverne de Bolt changed the policy to Spanish films at I believe it was Valley Theater. Yeah, it was at Valley Theater, Valley or Grove. So he changed the policy that on Thursdays, he would show Spanish films, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, English language films. And after his theater went out of business, Merle D. Cross leased the theater in 1959 to the Platte Valley Community Theater. The building was auctioned in 1963, becoming the Eagles Fraternal Lodge. And you can go down in Gering and still see the sign where the Eagles Lodge was at. That building was acquired by the city in 1989 and demolished. And in its place is the city's Gering Municipal and Retail Complex that was still used in the 2020s. And it's 2026, that building is still used today. So where the theater was, this dude took it over, showed Spanish films one day a week, and then the weekends was English films. And then, again, theater's not successful, so it closes. This other dude takes it over, and the Platte Valley Community Theater was there, which I believe was mostly live stuff. And then the building was auctioned in 63 and was the Eagles Lodge. And if you go down a block or so, you can see the sign for the Eagles Lodge. I believe they just moved the sign. And so today, that is where the Gering Public Schools is at, and the cop shop and the library. So they demolished the theater completely and put those buildings up in its place. So that's Gering and Minatare. And yay, we're only at 1 hour, 11 minutes, much shorter than last time. But I had thought about adding on Morrill and decided to do it with the roundup from the rest, because the rest of the places there isn't a lot of information, just where they were at. Yeah. But again, I put Minatare and Gering together because they were both about equal lengths, but they also gave me the big impression of we want movies, we want entertainment, what can we do? And they change hands, they change names, but they're always constantly trying. And even today in Gering, they're still trying to do more with what they have. They haven't really gone into theaters, but they do a lot more of the outside stuff with parks. Gering's parks are a lot more nicely kept up than ours. Yes. I'll give them that. Yes, yeah, but, and they have a lot of parks and a lot more activities in those parks. Yep, so. Yeah. So it's they kind of found their niche there, but they're always trying to find ways to make their community a little better with whatever they can do. And I get that sense from Minatare too. Minatare doesn't have a lot of people, but neither town needs to be trash talked, other than some friendly trash talking on the football field. But they try, they continue to try, and we'll just have to watch in the future. I think Gering will be around, I don't know, 30, 40 years from now. I don't know if Minatare will be there. Maybe it'll be an extended part of Scottsbluff. I don't know. It's far enough down the road, and a lot of people that live in Minatare are still rural. They have cows. They have fields they need to tend to. The town itself is still just didn't grow too much. Anyway, come back next week. We'll wrap up our regular theaters. And then the week after that, we're going to do the drive-ins. And that should get us into February. And I want to do at least one story for Black History Month. We had planned on doing a whole month. And the theater thing was just so much bigger than what I thought it would be. So hopefully you all enjoy that. Come back next week and we'll ramble on a little bit more. For now, I'm Irene.
And I'm Connor.
And this is Storytelling on the Plains.